Beer is the most consumed alcoholic beverage in the world, and over 70% of that is lager.
It's one of mankind's greatest inventions, a cultural phenomenon unlike anything else. So how has it come to be so misunderstood?
When most people think of it, they picture anemic, flavourless, overly fizzy amber beer brewed in giant factories in a matter of days. But it hasn't always been like that, and it doesn't have to be now.
Those macro lagers have little to do with the kind of beer that we at the Craft Beer Channel consider to be the greatest liquid on earth.
So we've teamed up with the organisers of We Are Lager, an amazing annual all-lager festival in Manchester. They want people to drink better lager, encouraging beer lovers from all walks of life to trade up and support the people who brew it right and treat it right.
That means busting some serious myths. So we went on Twitter to find the biggest misconceptions, and we're going to fix them.
Hi guys, and welcome to the Craft Beer Channel. Today we're up at Manchester Union to bust some myths about what we think might be the greatest kind of beer on earth, the lager.
Yes, we went on social and we asked you guys what you thought about lager in general, what misconceptions you might have heard, and why you think it doesn't get the love it deserves.
Yeah, and if there's ever going to be misconceptions, it's probably going to be online. So coming up on screen now are the worst of them, and we are going to bust those myths right here and right now.
So the first and possibly the biggest misconception is that lager is a style, which it isn't.
It most definitely isn't. So the best way to look at beer is like the animal kingdom. So you've got beer, that's the animal kingdom, it encompasses everything. And then you've got ale and you've got lager, two kind of families.
What splits the two families apart?
So there's two things, there's yeast and there's process. Yeast is probably the biggest thing, so ale yeasts all stem from the same family, and there's lots of different offshoots of it, but usually you get lots of, or varying amounts of flavour from those and different flavours. Lager, meanwhile, is a little bit more condensed. There's fewer variations, there's fewer kind of flavours that you'll get from them, and that's the point of it. So you're getting clean, crisp flavours that you can play off of with your malts and your hops.
And the word lager literally comes from the German lagern, which means to store.
Yeah.
So that's the other big difference.
Yeah, exactly. So while ale yeast are kicking out lots of delicious flavours and you want them, lager, at the start, it kicks out lots of flavours that you don't necessarily want. Things like you can get sulphurs, you can get all kinds of different fruity esters. But what you really want in a lager and what sets it apart flavour-wise is a really clean, crisp kind of snap.
And that takes time.
And that takes time. So it kicks out all these flavours, and then the lager yeast, once it's kicked it all out, it goes back and starts eating up all of those chemicals that it's created. So you need to store it for a couple of weeks, a couple of months even, while it matures and it rounds out and it gets cleaner and cleaner and cleaner.
So if lager isn't a style,
Yeah.
what is?
It's a good question. So obviously you've got Pilsner, we'll get onto that. We've got Helles, which is like the classic German lager. But then you've got like Kolsch, which is a northern German style, which is they use an ale yeast in fact, but they cold store it. So it ends up really crisp and clean, but with some fruity notes. You've then got things like Baltic porters, which are rich, roasty, slightly boozy, but still very clean fermented beers. You've then, some Berliner Weisses are technically lagers. They've used a lager yeast to get that really clean profile so that the lactic acid can really kick on. You've got IPLs, which are super hopped, almost IPAs, but again, cleaner, lighter, often more attenuated. Like, there's so many different styles within that. As much as there is styles of ale, there's as many styles of lager.
So I said the first point was probably the biggest point, but this one's where the haters really come out of the woodwork. Lager is bland. It's like people are hung up on the big macro stuff, aren't they? And
Yeah.
that's all they think about when they think lager.
That is it. Macro beer has ruined the notion of lager. Okay, so what we're drinking here is made with love and made with care. It's triple decocted. It's lagered for 6 weeks. It's a different thing to the 12 days that it takes to make a Carling. And the fact is, with lager, because you're only getting that little yeast bite, that little snap that's really crisp and refreshing that brings all lagers together, on top of that you can layer anything. You can have an IPL, an India Pale Lager, that's hot to high hell, or you can have something like this which has that nice smooth SARS, strawberry, floral, grassy kind of thing that's going on. Right? You can have a painting that's got loads of stuff on it that's really full of detail all over the place, and that's what you might have in an IPA or an Imperial Stout, all these things popping off. In a lager, it's like somebody's put a bold stroke down the middle, and it's just impactful, and you just look at it and go, wow, that's a stripe.
It's a Rothko, is what you're saying.
I am saying that.
in terms of modern art.
Yeah, exactly.
Next cliche, Johnny. Pilsners all taste the same. I think it's what people think of when they think of lager. And even within that tiny little bubble of Pilsner, we know that there's such a massive spectrum of flavour.
Yeah, we've gone to the Czech Republic and had Bohemian Pilsners. If you go to Germany, just across the border, right, and you order a Pilsner there, it's a completely different beer. Instead of being caramelly, moorish, heady, often quite rich and heavy, but very sinkable, suddenly you're into like biscuit flavours, ultra clear, really pale, the kind of thing you can knock back. But all of these beers have little subtle variations. Some are obviously significantly better than others, but Pilsner is a catch-all term for a straw-coloured, refreshing lager. And wherever you go, in the Czech Republic, there's hundreds of different lager breweries, all using hops from different fields or using malts from different suppliers, whether it's floor malt or big producers of it. And the flavours you get are just so much more varied than, say, even a New England IPA.
Indeed. Couple of examples. Pilsner Urquell, Maillard reaction, lovely caramel.
Yeah, and that little
flavours.
hint of diacetyl
Yeah.
which they keep, which would be a massive flaw in an IPA, they just keep it there because it's this little buttery nuance that shouldn't really be there, but it is, and it's delicious. And then you go across, you go to Munich and you try like Paulaner Pilsner, and it tastes of crackers.
Yeah.
Crackers and lemon.
Little favourite of mine, on your tits here.
On your tits.
I just like saying that.
So yeah, that's an amazing little craft brewery that makes really dry, almost like tonic, kind of quinine levels of soft astringency and cracker dryness that is just unlike any of the other lagers made in that little part of that sort of lager triangle in the centre of Europe.
Amazing. This one is the one that really ticks me off, Johnny.
Grinds your gears.
It grinds my gears. Lager is easy to make.
Lagers are incredibly hard to make. They are the ultimate craft beer in my eyes.
There's no hiding in a lager, is
There's
there?
no hiding in a lager. You haven't got any yeast profile to play with. So it's literally how good are your hops when you put them in? How good is your malt when you put it in? How perfect is your water profile? It's what are your processes?
But this is the most precise of beers.
Yeah, it's a blank canvas where if there's a little speck out of place, you'll know. You'll know that it's slightly too astringent, or you'll know that the malt profile just isn't rich and moorish enough. Or you'll know if there's been a rough fermentation, if it's not been stored for long enough or it's been stored too warm, because you'll get little esters that you shouldn't have. It's so much harder to make than ales and big stouts and stuff like that, where you've got somewhere to hide if something small goes wrong.
If that's convinced you, you need to come down to the We Are Lager Festival every spring. And if it hasn't convinced you, you need to come down anyway.
And we'll convince you.
We will be there, we'll convince you.
There's going to be some amazing breweries there, and it's all in the right place for lager. It's there with great food, hopefully great people, and great music. And that is where beer needs to be. I love sipping a teku of IPA, but at the end of the day, there's something about a handled mug of Bohemian Pilsner that you just cannot beat. So guys, we hope to see you there.